Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. My name's Nathan Pay, and we have head of research at Blu Ocean Games Guild, Miles, with us. Anyone who's seen other Coffee and Crypto episodes are probably very familiar with us at this point. But I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to do an episode on kind of where our current focus is as a guild. We talk
Okay.
about so many different projects, we're researching so many. Recently, I just released a top 5 games list, and I'm sure that'll probably even change in a couple weeks to a month from now.
Very well might,
Right? The
with the way
space just goes
things are
so
going.
fast. Yeah.
And now we're also at the point where we have our loyal fan base who are like, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen that? And there's like constant fuel for us to be looking at. There's always something
That's right.
that's like, hey, have you seen this? And there's always at least one ping in my Discord where it's like, hey, have you seen this? And I haven't had time to see this yet. By the time I get to it, there's another one.
Right? And we're getting to literally hundreds of projects at this point.
Yeah.
Like, the space
Yep.
is growing really fast. But that's also getting us more proficient at kind of sifting and sorting through the good ones. So
Yeah, and how we're doing that is another
exactly.
really important
So
thing.
why don't we start with that? Why don't we explain a little bit? I know we talked about it on how we vet projects in one of our other episodes, but
expanding on that, we've actually done some work with NFT Guilds, which is another group that so generously decided to include our ratings in their confidence rating system. And I was like, ooh, what's a confidence rating? So I decided to sort of take their idea and run with it, and I'm trying to develop my own rubric for my own confidence rating system. And I've nailed it down sort of to 5 different points, and then now I'm expanding on those points and trying to give validity to my actual confidence ratings. You know what I mean? For a lot of projects, the first thing in my confidence rating is like fun factor and replayability. Well, I've played a lot of games, even games that I don't like, and even genres that I don't like, and that's how I figured out which genres I do like and which genres I don't. And so that being said, when I come across a game like, for example, when one of our top games right now is Karma vs Zombie, and I was like, well, I know this is going to get a good rating for fun factor and replayability because everybody in my games guild wants to play this game. They love games like this, but I'm not so sure that I'm sold because I don't like gem matching games. And then we decided to start playing it, and I play it so much, and I feel guilty about it because I never used to like these games. I'm like, I feel guilty about liking a gem matching game, but this one is just so much fun.
I kind of feel the same thing. So
So yeah, so now I have to figure out, well, how do I quantify that?
Mhm.
So so there's so right now I'm working on a rubric basically for how I'm going to quantify all of those different categories in my confidence ratings and give better, more confident confidence ratings.
But that's nice for people in our community because they'll be able to eventually, this is something we'll work on, kind of see that list from top to bottom. And they'll
Yeah,
be able to easily
that's right.
identify
That's
the
the
ones
goal.
that we're more confident in. So now as an individual, because that's something I found when I first got into this space, the amount of research that it took to really confidently get involved in a project is not to be underestimated, especially considering the depth of some of these projects now. Like when we start, like Cornucopias, which made our top 5 list,
Cornucopias is
is
an
such a
interesting one.
large scope of a game. We're talking about a whole metaverse where there's
It's
a
games
full economy.
right from the get go. They're planning multiple games,
Exactly.
and their minimum viable product will just be their first game. You know what I mean?
But trying to
Which is the
research that?
smallest of. You know what I mean? So yeah, when you're doing that research, it's like, wow, there's so much to this
Where do you start?
and it's all you have to read through their papers and read through their documentation and go through like Discord
A lot.
channels, for example, to get a picture of what they're trying to do and what their mission is and who the team members are and how active are they.
Mhm.
And that's another really important thing. If there are team members that are not active or they are active and they're not social, you want to know what the difference if what which of those two things it is. You know what I mean? Are they active or are they not active and they're just busy? You know
So
what I mean?
one of
Or-
our goals is really to kind of cut that time down for a lot of people.
Yeah, so we
As
want to do a lot
individuals.
of that grunt work so that we can go to people and say, okay, I give this team, a really good rating. So when you see a certain rating inside one of our reports, you can know that that means concrete things
Yes.
about So like, for example, when a lot of my confidence ratings have there's a tokenomics section, and in the tokenomics section, I'll often say there is a standard 2 token system. And a standard 2 token system sounds really simple on paper, but I'm going to expand on that in my rubric, and it's going to say something along the lines of a 2 token system that one token implies governance and the other token implies operation, and it's been vetted and audited, I mean, by a company like Certic or something like that, and all these things will be implied. And then when somebody reads my rubric, they'll go, okay, so if I see 2 token system, I can assume it's something relatively safe
That's right.
because of things like that.
And it's almost like I think of game critics as an analogy. Like you obviously still want to do your own research. That's really important, but it just gives you kind of that initial impression to let you know if you want to take that next step. and maybe to save some people some time.
Well, I think about it like if you have a friend who watches a lot of anime and you want to
Mhm.
get into anime, you go, hey, which animes should I
There you
watch?
go.
And they probably know a few anime based on the kind of person that you are and based on, what they think you might be interested in for time and things like that. They'll go, well, maybe I think you should start with this, or maybe you should watch that now that you've seen this, and things like that. And so we want to be educated in that same manner in like the Web3 space so that people will come to us looking for that information and find it.
That's right. And there's a lot of projects that right now we, are on our radar or we've played a little bit. Like I'll bring up a couple shooters, for example, like Meta Ops, Eve.io. That's something that we enjoy.
Yeah, those
But
are
we're
fun.
not as focused on those as the top five, I guess you could say. And really, it's 4 out of the 5 I'd say we're more actively involved in because Cornucopias is still very early. Mavia was our number one, but they don't have a playable game yet that's accessible to the public. The reason it got such a good rating is because we're so actively involved. We know their team. We
Yeah,
can
we've
see
been,
the
and that's another
potential.
reason is that a lot when I'm surveying the teams
Mhm.
of various projects, some of them are more visible and some of them are
That's right.
not. And the ones that are less visible but look really good on paper will still get a good confidence rating from me. But I have to figure out how in my rubric I'm going to differentiate between those two. Like because for the example with the Mavia team, we actually know a few members of the Mavia team. For example, the guy who runs their Discord and some of their mods, and we've gotten through their town halls gotten a chance to really survey their actual team and see what they're doing day to day, and that's a factor in our confidence in their team. But with other teams, you see somebody maybe who was a designer for like a really big game, like I don't know, MTG Arena or something like that. Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so you have to really find out what is the connection with that and the other, and is that expertise really going to be valuable in the context of what they're trying to make? And do they have a mission, and are they all aligned with that mission? And how vocal are they about it? How social are they about it? And is that on purpose?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually a big reason why Karma vs. Zombie made number two, not number one.
Right.
Because naturally, when you think of that list, it's like, wait, Karma vs. Zombie is playable. It's the highest earning potential right now of any play to earn project that we've ran into. It's a fully flushed out playable game. Like it's the most developed. But where, in my opinion, it fails or lacks the most is the team, the community. Their Discord is, frankly, pitiful. It's full of bots, people saying hi all the
Yeah,
time.
I've
There's
gone there a
scam
couple of
messages
times.
in there. They're not really navigating it well. They're not paying a lot of attention. I have noticed in the last week a couple new moderators have appeared out of nowhere, and they're starting to say a little bit more in the general chat. So I think they're starting to understand. But for me, looking at it as a game guild, the moment I went to the Discord, I was like, okay, they're not visible. I don't know who the team members are. They're not communicative. They don't answer their support tickets. Even unfortunately, the support in game is very lackluster. I've had one issue I've been trying to resolve for 2 months, and they keep passing me to another person. So
Oh
it feels like
no.
they're just not dealing with my issue, which is very simple.
Yeah,
But
but
I was intentionally kind of testing them to see how is their support system.
yeah, how's
Yet
this gonna
every
work?
other aspect of their game is fantastic.
Yeah, because I haven't had a problem yet, and I find the game to be really, really addictive, and I
Yeah.
find the economic system to support the actual wants that are present in the game. For
Same.
example, they have their token Knot. Knot is a pretty hard thing to accumulate, but it's also the thing that you need to make
To ascend
basically
your guys,
value
anything.
jumps in the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
extending your fighters is a value jump. Now you can sort of face a higher tier of enemy, find a higher tier of thing, make a higher tier of fighter from a higher tier of zombie when you get that value jump. And they very carefully sort of map that out. And then the token itself is backed by
Yes.
ad revenue, and a large allocation of it is sort of allocated to play to earn, which is really important. Which says to me, they're like, we want this marketplace to be powered and on its own, and the players are going to make the values on the marketplace, and they're holding,
It is.
and it's really great to
It
see
is.
that because
So that's what I mean. Like you kind of said, even though maybe a team might not so be visible, you'll still potentially get a good confidence rating, and that's something good for
yeah,
everyone here to know.
that's the thing. I've played this game, and it proves to me that because of the way after playing this game enough and seeing all the different cycles in it and understanding how they generate value, I can see empirically that the team understands their tokenomics well. So I can go in my confidence rating, go, this team clearly understands their tokenomics
And
well.
everyone's a critic. It's easy for me to say they need more community development. They need a community manager. Their support needs to be better. But that's literally the only complaint. So that is amazing in itself, right? We've got a fully fleshed out game. The economics are good. The token system is great. The resellability, the earnings is great. if their team was too, we've got like the best game we've ever seen in a very long
100%.
time, right? So that kind of leads me into the next one. I want to talk about Big Time because I know you've been playing that a lot, and that got number 3
I'm
on
not
our
the only
list.
one who's been playing a lot of that game. That game takes up a lot of our guild's time,
Right?
and voluntarily, I should say. Like, we love playing that
And
game.
it was hard ranking that. It really was because I know how much you guys are all genuinely enjoying it. But Karmaverse had higher earning potentials, and it was a more of a finished game.
Yeah, they're at different stages in their development,
That's
I would
right.
say. If you asked one of the development team members of Big Time if their game was finished, they'd be like, we're not even at minimum viable product yet. It's just,
Yeah.
we've put this out here that people can play it because we understand the importance of having something to play now.
Yeah.
And they even say that in their, one of the, I think what's part of their light paper, they actually mention how important it is for them to have this be in the social spotlight and playable now and look decent now and be fun now.
I think Mavia there was a town hall recently where that was kind of brought up. Like they understand the beta aspect for the community building and having something that people can play and be more involved in. Like
Yeah, that's
they
right.
understand that
That's
too.
what's going to really thread the needle ultimately without them having to oversee it of social engagement. Right now, they're doing a great job with social engagement with the Mavia Elite and with
The
staying
best
on
of any
top of their
project I've
Discord.
seen.
The best of any project that I've seen
Yeah.
that doesn't have an actual playable game out yet.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And when their game comes out, even if it's just the beta and there's no like alliance management or anything like that, people are going to want to do that themselves. They're going to facilitate that themselves
That's right.
because the game is going to be really fun to play.
Yeah.
We recently saw that there's some gameplay footage that came out, and we had a little chat with the dev team. Well, a little bit about how far they are along with the actual building of the game, and so like some of the things in the beta were not behaving, or in this
In the trailer.
trailer were not behaving the way that they're going to behave when the beta comes out or when the actual game comes out. For example, their pathing engine's not fully complete, so you can't really like make inferences about how troops might behave or things like that yet. But it really shows how different this is going to be from any other base builder game.
Yes.
And now we can show that to everybody. They can show that to everybody. And it's going to start building hype for this.
The big time.
And then soon they were talking about their like wiki. They're going to start populating their wiki with actual numbers and facts about their troops and things like that. And it's at that point, a couple months from now, when we're closer to the beta, or when the beta is maybe out, that we can start making inferences about how we're going to make our like strategies inside the game.
That's right.
And it sounds like they're going to be more complex than they were in any other base building
It does sound
game
like that,
that
too,
we've ever played. So
which is what I want.
that's what we all want. Yeah.
That was my favorite part about Clash of Clans. Just to kind of sidetrack here a little bit, I don't want to go too off topic, but
Yeah.
Clash of Clans was literally the hardest game I've ever played. And what I mean by that is I think of like Magic the Gathering, poker, chess.
Hardest to master. Maybe.
Yes, so the skill variance is very high, meaning there'll never be two chess players that are the same. There'll never be two poker players that are
Right.
the same. There'll never be two Magic the Gathering players. Clash
Right.
of Clans was one of the only games that I ever found that had that exponential curve where nobody can duplicate someone else's strategy identically. Their
Mhm.
understanding, their education, their intuition, their muscle memory. There's so many factors that come
And
into play.
strengths and weaknesses as a result too.
So now add even more complexity to that genre of game, and I think we're just going to even broaden that scope even more. So I'm super excited about
Well, the last thing that I like about it, the further layer, is that with this whole NFT system that they have, they're going to be basically encoding people's playing data, their replay
Right.
data inside of the actual lands, which means
Mhm.
people are going to be developing reputations.
Yes.
And other people are going to try to dethrone those people based on their replay data. And they're going to, there's going to be a really rapidly evolving meta based on that. You
It's
know what I
going to be
mean?
so cool.
Because there's going to be no one with such complexity in a game like this where it's not 8-way direction but all-way direction and
Yeah.
things like that. You know what I mean? There are now troops who can go through walls and things like that we've never seen before. That level of variance and that level of speciality is going to cause certain specializations to fail against others and others to succeed against those. And so there'll be this meta of people one-upping
right.
each other forever. And that's going to be really competitive and fun to play and fun to watch and easy to watch.
It will be.
So that's really important.
I think so too. And kind of just going back on our topic about having something to play, that perfectly segues us into the Bornless, which got our number 4 spot.
Yeah, we recently got to play the
Right?
Bornless.
And I mean, that is very early stages. There's one map, one mode, but wow, talk
it's just
about
in time
fun.
for spook season too.
It is.
Spooky season.
But just how impressive, like, we've been dealing with the team where we've been talking to them. We're a partnered faction, so we're going to be more involved as it goes on. There's even a tournament coming
Oh,
up
I'm
here.
so excited for that.
Right? And we did one a little while ago. But that's what they've done really well. They made this one map, one mode playable to get the gist of the game, and it's so fun that people are just falling in love.
So I
with
really
it.
like this game because I've played with a lot of other people, and people keep trying to give me their advice on how to play. There's like 3 guns, maybe 4 guns in the game, and there's maybe 3 like special gadgets that you can get. One of them is a hellfire grenade, one of them is a shield that goes around you like an orb, or you put it on the ground. And people keep and then the spectral sight where you kind of get this like infrared vision around you for a moment. And people keep telling me, oh, you should try and do this and you should try and do that. But I've really just, I get into a pinch and I formulate my own strategy, and those are the times that I do the best. And I think it's really exciting because it's set in like this sort of 1940s, not, I wouldn't say post-apocalyptic, but I would say super, super scary like town almost, like nighttime freaky town.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil-esque a little bit. Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. And they use the word soundscape a lot, which is really important to me because the way a game sounds is also very important to try to set the stage of how it's going to feel when you play it. So they've paid a lot of attention to that already. And so whenever I play this game, it's like I don't want it to be too dark and my heart starts pounding. It's like, there's like, it's really good. I really enjoy it. And it's really, and again, it's one of those games that's way in its early beta, and we have no idea the scope of when it comes to global release, how it's actually going to be, and just this early alpha thing that we're getting to play is so much fun already.
Right?
So,
and they did recently update their website and their white paper, so there's a lot more information there, which just got me even more hyped to kind of see. They talk about the safe houses and NFTs and esports and the tournaments and stuff. So to have played this like one map mode that's just so fun to replay over and over, to think about how that's going to grow to so much more, just that's why we decided as a guild, okay, this is something we want to focus on.
Their system on paper with the safe houses is very similar to other games that have like garages where it's like you're out on the battlefield and you want to go to a safe place where you can recover.
Or big time spaces.
You know what I mean? Or big time has spaces,
you can even continue to add more.
Well, I would say time machines, and then as an extension spaces, because everybody gets a time machine, and then you can eventually link them together with the spaces.
Yeah.
And there's going to be guild stuff. And I'm really excited about that because, we are a traditional guild in every sense, and I haven't gotten to play a game, where I can really command the guild and where the guild can, you know what I mean? Like, we want to get together and form up as an actual and take down huge bosses and stuff.
Yes, right?
We're expecting some of that, so I'm really excited about it.
And Cornucopias is actually accommodating to that, kind of moving along to the 5th one on the list, because I want to make sure we have a little bit of time to talk
Cornucopias
about
is an
other things.
Interesting project for sure.
Huge. But the guild aspect is big there, because, like, what do we want to do in the game? Do we want to be merchants? Do we want to specialize in a game mode? Do we want to play tournaments? Do we want to barter? Do we want to do racing? There's literally, and when I've looked at some of the other guilds in Cornucopias, there's a few of them that are becoming rather large. And even they're saying, like, we have an idea roughly what we're going to focus on, but really we have to wait and see. Because there's so much into
once
the
they
game.
develop further and there's numbers to everything, people are going to go, well, actually, I think I want to do this. Well, actually, I think I want to do that. You know what I mean? It's just like when you're waiting for the next iteration of like your favorite fighting game to come out, and you go, I know I'm going to be this character because I was this character last time. And then the game comes out and they're totally different. And you fight with somebody else. You're like, actually, I like this person better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just don't know until it comes out.
But it's because of the nature of the game, and that's why it made 5th on my list.
Well, it's a series of games too. Cornucopias is one of very few projects on my list that get extra points in their confidence rating, and I don't give extra points out for no reason. I give extra points to projects that are doing things that no one else is doing, or projects that are trying to innovate in some way. You know what I mean? So, and what Cornucopias is doing, there's only one other project that I can think of. It's called Supremacy that's doing this. Is that they're developing their project to be implicitly on multiple platforms. So the first game that they're developing, as I understand it, is a game that was meant to be played on the phone, and it's going to be a game where you use like your bubble jet sprinter and you're trying to get from A to B, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but that's going to be the first entry sort of game in their giant sort of ecosystem in Metaverse, where there's going to be a bigger game that you play on your computer and another game that you play on a different device, and they're going to all sort of be interconnected, and that's what they want to do with this other game, Supremacy, also. And it's a really interesting idea because it really illustrates the concept of the Metaverse from the get-go, but instead of trying to make multiple different games that are not related, they're trying to make them related. And also sometimes economically, in the case of Cornucopias, also economically. You're going to play this one game in order to generate resources to use them to play the other game, which is also fun, and you might generate resources from that game, which you can use in the third game. And then there might even be a creative outlet where you can spend your resources in order to design things so that you can have for all the games, you know what I mean? And
Okay.
that's what they want. They want ins for everybody, so that even if you're not a person who wants to like play the fighting game, that maybe there's a fighting game or something like that, maybe you can design skins for like the houses that people go to in between fights.
Well, this is
or
a bit
something
worth
like that.
mentioning too,
Whatever game it
because
might be, right?
mentioning Supremacy, the other game I think of, and this was close. This was a close to top 5, but I've only recently discovered it. So if I had been a little more invested or involved, it probably would have made the top 5. And it's mech.com.
Oh, just come back at us like a couple weeks from now. I'm sure we'll make another top 5.
Right, but the reason I mentioned that they have a gem match game that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, the
There's also a
mech.com
racing
gem
game, and there's even a battle arena.
Yeah.
So there's these 3 core modes, and they're even talking about the battle arena being able to ante up your NFT as like a prize. But here's the cool part: some of the higher tier land, you're going to be able to make, design, and implement your own mini games within the game.
That's right. That's
So
right. So they're doing a
taking
thing
it-
similar to, I wouldn't say sandbox, but also sandbox and like NFT worlds, where you can sort of design your own stuff that operates based on their stuff.
But they have their
And
core
they
kind
have-
of couple different
yeah,
modes.
and so
and
the
stuff.
other thing that they've also thought this out for time too. Like they know that there's going to be times when you're at home with your big machine and you want to play like an actual game for a couple hours,
Yeah.
and then there's going to be times when you're on the bus and you have 15
And you
minutes
just
and you might
wanna
want to play the
open
gem matching game and get some resources, so that when you get home later you have more stuff for the whatever it is you might be, you know what I mean? In this case, the mech game, you know.
And I think that's
There'll
kind
be-
of a good summary of everything we've talked about here
Yeah.
today. Is
Yeah.
innovative product or projects are really kind of the ones that are coming
Yeah.
to the top.
And these are the top 5 innovative things that we've been in, and there are several other ones that have innovated in different ways, even that didn't make the top 5 because they're not viable products yet, or because we don't know enough about them yet, or because maybe one reason or another. But that'll be saved for perhaps another week.
Yeah, and we'll have to keep up to speed with it. I mean, because of how fast the space moves, I want to try to do an update on the top 5 kind of on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it would be so good for us to have an episode about this, because usually we have a very specific topic that we talk about.
Yeah,
but we
we're
haven't
always
gotten
one
every
thing at a
people-
time.
Yeah, this way everyone's kind of up to speed on where we're up to speed on. So having the ability to be able to pivot and stay up to speed with all these projects has been something that we've learned is not only super important for the business, but also everyone in the community, because there is hundreds of projects at this point, you know, and like people will come and ask us constantly, do we know about this? Do we know about that? And most of the time, surprisingly, we do. We already have a report.
Yeah,
There's already
generally.
a discussion.
Or at
but
least we've
not
like
always.
we've set up a thing so that I can look at it at another time, or somebody can look at it at another time, and we've like just seen the title screen type thing. At the very least, we have that.
So that's one thing I wanted to
Most of
mention
the
to
time.
everyone watching here. You know, if you're not in the Discord, definitely make sure you do. That's where a lot of the communication in the community really is hosted, I guess you could say. But if you have any projects that you're curious about and maybe haven't jumped down the rabbit hole or done the research, ask us, because there's a good chance we either already have or we are willing to help facilitate that for you.
We would love to know about the projects that you know about that we don't know about.
Right?
So
Because
tell
that
us.
helps us too. You know, it saves you some research time. That's really kind of what our Discord and our community has turned into over the last while, is this resource, this ability to help people kind of navigate this space faster, because
Yeah.
it is moving so quick.
Yeah, it's a big place.
It really is. So thanks so much for everyone's attention today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks, of course, Miles, for joining us.
Thanks
It
for
was really
having me.
great having an episode just to get everybody up to speed where we're kind of focused on as a guild. And until next time, cheers. Don't forget about our 1,000 subscriber giveaway, where you can win $200. And if you need more information, be sure to join us on our Discord. See you there.